Good evening and welcome to a new edition of To The Point. This evening we'll be discussing the situation in the region, especially what is happening to Cairo-Doha relations. With us this evening to shed light on is Her Excellency Ambassador Allam, who is a former Assistant Foreign Minister. A pleasure to have you with us. Whenever we seem to think that things are calming down, something has to happen whereby you are quite amazed at a neighboring country's reaction. When it comes to the judicial process, nobody is above the law, regardless of who he or she may be. Yeah. And it is quite mind-boggling why we see this Qatari reaction or Doha's reaction vis-a-vis the life sentence with some of the terrorist brotherhood members received ago. This has been deliberated for years. The sentence was issued after extreme investigation. Not that we really should be discussing the judicial process, but it was a very thorough, long judicial process. I mean, quite frankly, at the Egyptian street, people are not happy with the pace, which people tend to think is extremely long. Yet after years of trial and without a doubt conviction, why is Qatar upset?
Oh, okay. Let me start by reacting to a few points that you mentioned in your presentation. First of all, now there is a very clear kind of distinction between about the Arab world and the region. And when we talk, some people, when they talk about the region, they don't really necessarily mean the Arab world. They probably mean the Middle East at large. This is a new concept that has been introduced with the intention of kind of diluting the Arab identity. And I think that we Arabs are helping with this very much, that we are very much working with those who are trying to dilute what is the Arab world identity to be. I was not surprised very much at the reaction of El Doha to the verdict that came out of the case against the former president and some of his assistants. Doha has been consistently helping the Muslim Brotherhood. They have extended their very much financial helping hand to their government when they came to the seat of government. They have been helping them through financing their campaign, their different campaigns all over. They are hosting most of their leaders. They are helping them. They are still paying money. They are still, so to speak, distributing loots to people who are engaged in disrupting the system in Egypt. I think that there is a very strong alliance between Doha and Ankara, and we have seen that they have both had the kind of similar reactions. Maybe the Qatari one was a little bit much too strong for vis-a-vis the Turkish one, but the Qatari prince took himself and went to Ankara, maybe to consult and to discuss with his counterparts in Ankara on a business trip. So I think that in terms of strategic alliances, this is not at all some kind of an ununderstandable situation from the side of Qatar. I was not surprised. I mean, I expected this some kind of a reaction, and maybe because they were mentioned by name. And it has been always known as the, the conspiracy with Qatar all the time.
What will Qatar benefit, or maybe it's a naive question, but what is Qatar benefiting, or how is it benefiting from supporting the Brotherhood?
Let us just, kind of rewind the reel a little bit backward. There is this mega vision of the political Islam reigning in the Middle East, the general Middle East. Let us now see that Shiite Islam has a capital. It's in Tehran. Let us see that Sunni Islam, Saudi Arabia, Turkey with its kind of rethinking of Ottoman greatness and thinking that bringing in political Islam back to the forefront can allow it to return, because I mean this was the basic reason why the Ottoman Empire expanded in the Middle East in general. So I think it was within this rather larger vision of the Islamic political Islam that Qatar built its ambitions to become one of the main forwarders of this kind of a vision. And it has, because I mean it's very obvious. They have been very clear about it, and we should not really kind of put our head in the sand and say it's not the truth. This vision of political Islam reigning in the area is still going on. We have seen it. We have seen it in Daesh. Daesh is basically the remnants of the Sunni Iraqi military who were disbanded by the Americans. I mean, this was the kind of executive order number 2 from Bremer when he went to administrator in Iraq, that he disbanded. Yes. The strong army of Saddam Hussein. So all the Sunnis kind of, this is the origin of Daesh. And then we see that a lot of other small Daeshes under different names and denominations are being created all over the Arab world in different areas. In Syria, and we see what is happening in Syria, the ups and downs in the Syrian situation. We see in the continuous deterioration in the situation in Libya. We see it happening in Sinai. I mean, we have to ask the questions that are really closer to home. Giving them money, all this financing, all these arms. This is all the arms. Who is to these people who are continuing now for 3 years, on and on and on and on. It's an endless process. We have to ask the question really closer to home.
Can I maybe follow up with a question, which is, we can ask the question out loud, even though within us, I think we all know who is funding and who is supporting. The issue is, now that we have a country like Israel in the United Nations seat, heading a committee that is
the legal committee, this international, this is very serious. I'm very disappointed, very frustrated, very angry.
Will Israel issue some kind of a law from that committee?
It will be
taking action against those countries?
It will be manipulated to the greatest extent possible. And I really have to blame, I have to set blame, on the Arab diplomacy in general, that they have allowed.
What could they have done?
Oh, plenty.
It's 109 countries that voted yes.
No. Where is all this? I mean, it doesn't run like this. It doesn't run like this. Then, if, following your reasoning, if 109 countries have voted in favor of Israel, then again there is something wrong. We are not doing our homework. We are not doing our homework in showing the world who is really Israel, what it is its intentions, and maybe that the world in a way or another, Israel, kind of fulfill its dreams in the area. So I think we have been, there is a malfunctioning, let us call it a malfunctioning in the Arab politics, in the Arab strategy. We don't have a unified target anymore. The 22 Arab countries, members of the Arab League, don't have a unified target. They don't have a unified vision. They have been too much at crossfires against each other. And problems were created in the area for many reasons. Some of them is to kind of withdraw, slow withdrawal of the wealth of the Gulf countries in particular. That is wealth in terms of monies. So, in a very strange way, to disrupt the Arab countries from within. This is what is being called the fifth generation of wars. I mean, the fourth was the technology and the small groups and the small guerrilla groups. But this is the fifth generation of wars, is that you disrupt the country. You break the country from inside, from its own population. You get it so much involved and invoked into internal problems or problems with neighbors or within its region, because that was what is happening in the Arab world, to the extent that it cannot stand on it. And we see what is happening now. I think that the time has come, and I mean, we are going to bid farewell to the present Secretary General of the Arab League. There is a new Secretary General for the Arab League coming up, and he is in such a situation which is not very much a very happy situation.
Does he have the foundation on which, because I was just thinking about this, you can have a new Secretary General, but at the end of the day, it's not only the Secretary General that does the job. It's the institution. I mean, you've had Amr Musa, Nabil Al-Arabi, and now Ahmed Abul Ghait, who will be soon. They're all high calibers, lacking for nothing, but they will all, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but how is the situation different? Because it seems that the Arab will is lacking. Let's be quite honest with ourselves. We have not realized the grave danger that is engulfing us. Or am I too harsh in my judgment?
No. I think you have hit, you know, like your program, to the point. But the point is, honestly speaking, I mean, the Arab League, like any other regional organization, is in fact acting at the will of its members. So this is of the will of the members of the Arab League. This is what's coming out of that. So it is very difficult for I mean, he is not well, there is a big difference here. He is not the foreign minister of the Arab countries. The Secretary General of the Arab League is not the foreign minister of the Arab countries, because he can't be. I mean, because there are different now, and more we see some kind of a discrepancy between the policies of different, and this is why, you know, again coming back to your question about the earlier question about Qatar, is that, you know, I mean, if you look at the statistics, you will see that among the 10 richest countries in the world, you will see that 4 of them are from Gulf countries. And who is number 1 in the world in terms of per capita GDP, that is gross national product? Qatar. Qatar is the richest country in the world. It has every person of the 2.5 million.
Qatar is quite small.
Well, it is. Well, I give you, you know, some kind of a comparison. The Sinai is 60,000 square kilometers.
And
Qatar is 11.5 square kilometers. So it is less than 1/5 of the Sinai Peninsula. But it is the richest country. Every person in Qatar owns $141,000 of its gross national product. And to me, I mean, in my standpoint, that could have given such strength to Qatar to become, for example, the cultural center of the Arab and Islamic world. It could have been, I mean, look at it. I mean, they have the 2022, you know, Copa Mondial, kind of. So this is the kind of thing they should have been involved in if they really wanted, you know, some kind of an international stature. But they chose otherwise. They made different choices. So what I'm trying to say now, that this is the will of the Secretary General of the Arab League, is the will of those countries. So if he is that, I mean, his hands are tied by what they want, and he has to do it because he is the head of the organization. He is not their representative. So I think it's about time that, and we have a summit, an Arab summit coming in Mauritania in Nouakchott. So I think that they...
Would it be any different from the previous... I mean,
well, I do hope, I sincerely hope so, for the best interest of the Arab countries, for the best interest of the Arab people, for the best interest of the Arab youth. I mean, the Arab world is one of the major points of extensive youth in terms of its population. More than 60% of the youth in Egypt and more or less in the Arab countries are below 40 years. This is, I mean, most of them are millennials. So it is very important that they realize that. And if we're talking about Islam, I think that it is the responsibility of the Arab countries to forward the cause of Islam, the right Islam, the compromising Islam, the Islam that people in general believe that it is a religion of faith, at the same time of work, of labor, of respect, of good relationships within and without.
When you say we have an upcoming meeting of the Arab Summit, do you think we can reach some kind of not a stance, but some tangible steps can be taken towards different issues pertaining to terrorism now that Egypt is heading this committee in the United Nations, maybe pushing forth a certain agenda to recognize globally who categorizes or who qualifies as a terrorist, and more importantly, as you were saying, saying it out loud and clear, we know, and naming who is actually supporting and harboring and training the terrorist organizations. Can we come out and say that what happens within this region is this region's problem? The people of Syria or the people of Libya will, or the people even of Iraq will actually decide their fate. They have the right to decide their own fate. And should they ask for advice, it should be from within this region, not from anywhere else. Can we come out with statements?
You are too optimistic.
What else should they be discussing?
There is plenty to discuss.
But these are pressing issues which are threatening our national security, our regional national security.
These are the pressing issues, the vital issues that the region has to discuss. But basically they have to come to an understanding that cooperation is the solution, not disruption of relations, not creating more, not thinking in diverse ways, in different, with different targets, with different intentions. This is very, very important. I think that a common will of the Arabs is needed. A common will of the Arab leaders is needed. How do we solve this problem? Now, I think that the Yemeni situation is not, but is about or could be eventually contained. The situation in Syria is more complicated. And we never have to forget that a party to the Syrian problem, though they are not Arabs, two parties actually, well, actually three parties to the Syrian problem are not Arab countries. So you have Israel, Turkey, and Iran. And you have different affiliations within. So the Syrian situation is very, very complex. And it has to be some kind of dissected so that we can know where we're going. But I am happy at least, or content at least, that there has been an intention or the vision for a political solution is now more or less acceptable. But again, we are still discussing what are the components of that political solution. I'm very concerned about Libya, because Libya is left with a huge empty, vacuum, strategic vacuum. And I am concerned that at a certain moment of, emptiness of vision and strategy, that it will be hit again by NATO or by whoever finds that it is important to hit it again. So I think that the main issue that could be, and it will be very satisfactory, that the Arab countries, the Arab leaders come to a common will of working together to solve this problem. Is within a win-win concept. It doesn't have to be winner-loser concept, a win-win. Because losing against each other will end up with Israel, Turkey, and Iran winning, on the outskirts of that.
We have with us a phone call. We have with us Dr. Zulfikar from Paris. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
How do you see Qatar's reaction to the Egyptian life sentence that was issued vis-à-vis some of the Brotherhood members?
Well, you mustn't forget that Qatar happens to be the patron, both financial and ideological patron of the Muslim Brotherhood. So obviously they will not be very happy with these judgments. But one has to look backwards a few years and find out that what is Qatar's aim. Qatar is a tiny country with a population of about 250,000 Qataris. I mean, the 2 million people there, but the vast majority are foreign. But they have, at the same time, situated on the soil of Qatar is the largest American military base and naval base in the whole Middle East. So they are both practically spokesmen of American policy in the whole area. Of course, the Americans do not project them without showing their ugly face. It's Qatar that is carrying out what America's policies are, both in bolstering and backing the Muslim Brotherhood, not only in Egypt, but also in Syria, in Libya, in Iraq, and elsewhere. They are basically carrying out American policy. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood has been patronized and financed largely by Kuwait, now also by Turkey, and much less so by Saudi Arabia. But mainly Qatar and Turkey are backing the Muslim Brotherhood in all, not just Egypt, but as I said, Libya, Syria, and also Iraq. So we can't expect them to be very happy with these decisions. But, you know, they can be sentenced to death, but I doubt very much if any of these sentences will be carried out, because these are political sentences, basically. I think it is just a message which the Egyptian government is sending to the Muslim Brotherhood, but I don't very much...
But these sentences are final.
No.
Yes, they're final, but, you know, they will never be carried out.
You think they will be... You think that
will not be executed? I don't think so. I think these are messages that the Egyptian government is trying to send to the Muslim Brotherhood. It's a message. And I doubt that any of these sentences will ever be carried out.
Sir, do you think that the Arab will, or the Arab countries can unite in face of the grave dangers that face us in future?
Well, it depends what dangers you're talking about. If you're talking about Daesh, of course not. Several Arab countries are backing Daesh or backing Al-Qaeda. So you can't, and there's no such thing as Arab unity anymore. Your Arab unity disappeared many years ago. And the principal person who broke Arab unity was our president when he signed a separate peace treaty with Israel. He was the first one to break Arab unity. Ever since then, there's been no unity whatsoever. So we can't expect the Arab countries to unite when they're fighting each other.
Dr. Said Zulfiqar, thank you very much for your fruitful input.
Thank you.
You don't see Arab unity as well?
It's going to take some time. The kind of unity I saw, for example, in 1973, during the October War,
which we commemorated a few days ago.
Which we celebrated a few days ago. I think it was a changing era in the kind of common will of countries, and it was a beautiful, some kind of a relationship between the Arab countries, and but the international scene has been different. Theaters, you know, are theaters of war and theaters of tension are being newly created. There is an eye, you see. This is the problem. Again, it's one of the outcomes of globalization. In 1973, let us look at how much the gallon of oil was, you know,
and how much it is,
and how much it is today. So in so many ways, the international business, let us say the international business interests, see this money all this money that has been coming from 73 all the way to 2016 belongs, does it really belong to them? Should they really have all this money? Aren't we part of that? So, I mean, it was some kind of withdrawn in different ways, through technologies, through sales, through globalization, through so many ways. I mean, I'm not going to discuss it now, but this is part of it. I mean, look at any kind of restructuring or funding or so on. They will always tell you, let the Arabs do it. And now you have, I mean, you have the whole Syrian population. I mean, how many Syrians left their country? Around, are displaced or left their country, and you have seen today, you know, what happened at the borders with Jordan. So there is a lot of simmering problems.
Can I ask you a question, because Dr. Zulfikar just raised an issue which has been met with mixed feelings by different people, even from within the same country. He just said that unity ended when, with President Sadat signing this peace treaty with Israel. Do you think others see it, some see it the same way, others see it as a missed opportunity, that those who refused, like Palestine, who refused to join at the time and initiate a peace deal, they could have saved themselves the headaches that we're having today? How do you see it?
But this is the personal question now. Okay, personally, I was in New York. I was a member of the permanent mission to the United Nations at the time that Sadat went to Jerusalem, and I was kind of struck. You know, how could he do? Few years later, after, you know, we returned back Taba, the one sacred kilometer of our land, I read the Fatiha over his soul, because I thought that this man had the vision to see how the world is changing, and that getting your land, even with some restrictions, but these restrictions now since 2013 have been changed. You are seeing the whole Egyptian army, I mean, all these areas A, B, and C, you know, I mean, in the Camp David Accords now are not really there anymore. You see the whole Egyptian army functioning, you know, totally in the Sinai. So I think that every era, it is a mistake to compare, you know, leaders and ideas, and we have to see where do we stand, in which year, in which period, within which umbrella.
As a leader, you have to have the vision.
But as a leader, this is the difference between a politician and a statesman.
He had the vision.
The statesman sees 20, 30 years ahead of the usual politicians who play with, you know, manipulate with the little pieces of toys, you know, and tools that they have at their hand. This is the difference between that and the visionary statesman. This is what we should be working with. We should not. We have to sit back again, you know, open all the screens and see all the problems that we are facing in our area. Actually, even in Egypt, we should be doing this. I mean, we have been kind of entangled with our internal problems. They are very serious problems. And they are been lacking, you know, they're embodied for different years. But again, we have to have the vision, and we have to be able to bear to work for that vision. That should happen with the Arab world. But this is not going to happen, you know, in an arena of 22 leaders. There must be leaders who lead the countries. We have been doing this all the time. We have to continue to be. We don't have to be kind of amassed and entangled in all of this. Part of us will have to work. I mean, I see, I mean, if I were to have a vision, I would have a working kind of cabinet who attends to all the problems of, it is turning into, you know, some kind of a very personal issue, but I would have a cabinet that is working on all the daily problems of people and the bureaucracy, which is a huge, you know, machinery that we have to attack. And I would see another small cabinet working on the vision of Egypt for itself and for its region. And our region now is kind of crossing over to the Mediterranean. It's not only the Arab countries, it's not only Africa, and it's not only the Mediterranean. It will go further within Europe. And you will see with the Brexit elections, many changes will take place in Europe, even vis-à-vis how they look at our southern flank, which is the Arab world. This is how I see it, but I don't want to sound very personal. You asked me a personal question, I gave you a personal answer to that.
When you say we should have this vision and we should lead, will we be allowed to do so? When I say allowed to do so, I don't mean just Egypt, but I mean this region, not the 22 member states, but even half of the member states. Taking into account that this region, I mean, it encompasses Africa and some countries are in Asia. Yet you have Israel meddling, Iran meddling, and you have Turkey meddling. Will they allow you to move forward? Because they're really manipulating different parties within the African continent,
Yes.
in the Gulf, in the Middle East or the Arab countries. I mean, they're out there meddling. We always coexisted, Muslims and Christians. We always coexisted, Sunnis and Shiites. It's all of a sudden,
Everything is erupting.
Everybody is on a different faith, it seems. Why? Not why, but will they allow us?
Would they allow us? Why would I let them refrain me?
They have.
Well,
and they're manipulating.
Well, listen, I mean, the will of any country to move forward is its own decision. I mean, anybody can stand in my way. I mean, we were a country that had some of parts, a very dear part of its territory occupied. And we stayed from 1967 till 1973, really kind of in a very sad situation. I mean, I remember from the time of when I went to university, you know, the kind of jokes that were given at, different parts of this country. No, I don't think that if we have the strong will and we have the vision and we see it right, that any manipulations, but this is how the world is. The world, there is no utopia on earth, and there are no countries who are really kind of free from invasion, free from greed, free from kind of stepping over them. There is no such country. I mean, even who is the strongest country? The United States. Look at the kind of problems it is facing outside. This is how the work goes, and we have to play by that rule. But it depends. Are we going to be immersed into, some kind of a negative attitude, so everybody's running against us, so let us sit and do nothing? Or are we going to stand up, have our head over our shoulders, and decide we are going to go forward? It really is the will of the nation. It's decisiveness. And how do we gather the people around this will and this vision? By working, like I said, on different tracks, internal tracks, regional tracks, world tracks, and so on. We have to work very hard. We have to work very hard. I mean, this is an era, well, let me put it in another. This is an era of a new renaissance for the Arab world. The Arab world has to go through this kind of rebuilding, some kind of a new life, a kind of a renaissance for the Arab world.
That takes me, you just mentioned that we have statesmen and politicians. Do you think maybe our problem is that we have a lot of politicians and few statesmen? Because it's very clear where we're heading. Should we continue that way?
We have plenty, not only too many. We have plenty politicians. And statesmen, they are a rarity in the Arab world.
Do you think that this is the problem, that they don't foresee where we're heading should we continue this way?
They think to an extent that some of them look just under their feet, just at the tiptoes. Some of them just look into a very small, cadre of interests. But to be able to see the region as a whole, the region here, I see the Arab world. And I'm very concerned, I keep mentioning this, but I'm very concerned about the notion of the Arab world, because I see them that this is a region with a message. It has a duty. I feel all the time that Egypt has a duty. Egypt is a country that has to act as a responsible country because it has a duty.
What's our duty?
Oh, this you need another program.
In a nutshell, what's our duty?
It is our duty to become
our situation in the
now. It is our duty to become the country we should be, in every aspect and in every way. This is our duty. We should be inside, outside. We have a lot of potential. We can do a lot, but we just don't know how to do it, and we are too much carried away by too many changes and too many things that have been happening during it. But this is basically what we should be. We can be. We can be. I really strongly believe we can.
How do you foresee us moving forward? What are you predicting we can see for this region in the future? You said the Yemeni situation is getting better. How do you see the Syrian situation?
It is getting better. The Syrian situation will have to wait for the new U.S. elections.
Why?
Because the United States and Israel are main players.
Whoever's in office be different?
No, it is very different if the Republicans or the Democrats will come to power. It is very. We are not going to discuss the Americans.
Because how is the U.S. policy ever different?
No, it can be different. It can be different, and its impact on the Israeli policy decision. Because you see, Israel now is getting more and more and more and more and more demanding and intransigent. The last thing I could have expected them to say, for their prime minister to say, "Oh no, now the Arab initiative, for the solution of the Palestinian establishment of the Palestinian state has to be kind of reviewed and revised." I can understand the Arabs saying that, or the Americans saying that, but the Israelis saying it has to be reviewed and revised. They should have been very happy that we have already, but it didn't work for 11 years since 2002, so it's 14 years actually.
Did you expect anything different from them?
At the time, no. At the time, no. But now it's even more. It's more difficult. So this is why we have to attend to that. The Palestinian state. I don't think it is that far away. It can be if we really attend to it. But it will have to wait for the American U.S. elections. So will the issue of Syria.
Who do you think should he or come into? Is it a Republican or a Democrat? On which side is our bread buttered, since you think there is one side where our bread is more buttered?
Our bread and butter is in our hands, and no. Nobody is going to give you too much butter or too much bread. You have to work for it. You have to create your own tools of pressure, of how to convince. And this doesn't happen with weak countries.
Yeah, I understand this, but I'm saying
this doesn't happen with weak countries.
You're saying the situation will differ pending U.S. elections.
Yes.
You think it's better for the Syrian issue to have a Democrat or a Republican in office?
I really don't know, because I can't say, to tell you the truth, because what is being said during the election time usually is
campaign.
Is campaign. It's
what
campaign.
Did Obama say when he was here in Cairo?
I can tell you, I almost had tears in my eyes. On the 4th of June, 2009, 2009. You know, when he came to the Cairo University and, you know, put on the side, you know, Assalamu alaikum, but, you know, that he's committed to closing Guantanamo, that he's committed to the Palestinian issue, to create the two-state solution, and.
Did he keep any of his promises?
And it's not a matter of only keeping his promises. He turned, I mean, he kind of turned flanks and on the direction of the boat that he came, you know, kind of navigating here to Cairo. So I don't buy any of this. I have to see the modus operandi, let us say,
but that takes me back to the question. Why should it be any different with whoever is coming?
Because they are decision makers in the international arena, in the international
Would they
system.
ever issue a decision in our favor?
Well, George W. Bush was the one who promoted the idea of a two-state solution. And it didn't happen so far, but eventually I think that there will be a solution for the Palestinian issue. There will be a solution. But problem and every crisis has to be worked out.
Is it in the West's interest to find a solution for Syria and for Libya and for Iraq?
Iraq will have no solution. Iraq is Iraq now.
I'm just saying.
No, Iraq is Iraq, and it's up to the Iraqis to decide again how to work out their, because they are a state with still some kind of institutional establishment. Syria is a dismantled state, you know, with some kind of a Damascus seat. That's all, but the rest of the country is more or less under the hand the different parties. So I think that there is a lot of work still to be done on Syria. On the Libyan issue, like I mentioned earlier, I have to say that even from the side of Egypt, because they are our neighbors to the west, we have to be very careful, have very clear, open eyes on the situation so that it doesn't kind of disintegrate and kind of be overtaken by some kind of a NATO operation, by some kind of a Western operation of some kind. I think we have a great goal for Libya. We have a lot to do.
Before we wrap up, if I would ask you to direct a message to a former colleague who now happens to be entrusted with heading the Arab League in a few weeks. What message would you be addressing to Minister Ahmed Abul Gheit since he's about to hit the hot seat?
Actually,
aside from God give you strength.
I've worked together very closely with Minister Ahmed Abul Gheit. Actually, I was the very junior colleague at the permanent mission in New York, and he was first secretary, let us say middle career diplomat in New York. So we have been together for like 4 years together, and then I was a member of the foreign when he was Minister of Foreign Affairs. So I can't claim I know him very well, but I do know him very well, and it's very difficult to give him, you know, a very wise advice, you know, on this. But I would just tell him, do what you have learned to do all the time as an Egyptian diplomat. Objectivity, integrity, vision, and wish him the best in his...
In the hot seat.
In the hot seat, in the very hot seat of the Secretary General of the Arab League.
Well, Your Excellency, thank you very much for your fruitful input. I know we kept you late. I wish you a very pleasant evening.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining us. I'd like to thank you, the viewers. We'll see you same time next week. Until then, good night.